right now?
I can. I was just about to say we're gonna get started. But hey, welcome back everybody. We got another division preview for you. Shane and James as always. Uh, yeah, so we're way behind on this. You had some issues last week. I know you had car trouble at one point.
Still do.
You still do, yeah. So we're way behind. But today we got the AFC South. We're just gonna get right into it. Fourth place. We always go 4-1. So fourth place, James. I'm curious to see who you have because this is one I think we're gonna have a different 4-1. This is like the first division I think we're gonna have a completely different 4-1.
Um, I have the Titans.
No,
First of all,
we don't.
uh,
Then
um, I honestly really do like their roster. I don't know how I feel about Mike Vrabel as a coach. I know they supposedly got a pretty good OC that's supposed to help Mariota, but dude, Mariota might be a bust. I mean, I don't think he is. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, but he I don't know, man. He had more interceptions than touchdowns last year. That's not good. Like if that happens in this like it's a passing league now. Like it's kind of easy to pass. All the rules are in your favor. They've drafted like he has some weapons. Like I mean, I don't know. And I'm a fan of Mariota, but on the other hand, I do really like their personnel. I think this is actually a really good division. It got really good out of nowhere over the past couple of years. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're going to be hovering around 500, but I think that's going to be last place in this division, or at least tied for it.
yeah, I actually have the exact same thing. I got the Titans in fourth, and I really didn't want it to happen. I do like the Titans. I like Mariota. I like some of their personnel, particularly defensively. We made some nice moves in the offseason, getting Deion Lewis, Malcolm Butler, and drafting Rashawn Evans and Harold Landry. So I like some of the moves they made, but like you said, though, with Mariota, I don't know if he can do it anymore.
And and don't get me wrong, like I actually think he's going to have a pretty good season this year. I do think he'll bounce back, but that was bad last year, man. It just wasn't good. He did win a playoff game. I'll give him that.
Yeah,
But
and we'll see. We've mentioned this before. It really depends on your quarterback. And was last year his third year, right?
mhm.
And he's really kind of regressed each year. I don't really know what to expect from him. He's got a good run game. He's got a good offensive line. He's got some playmakers, to throw to. It's not like he's got a bunch of scrubs. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
it's a great receiving core, but
Mhm.
he's got a good defense to back him up. It really depends on him because this team could make the playoffs. It just depends on his development.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. So
I
who's
agree.
your four?
The Tennessee
Colts.
Titans, same thing.
You did have the Titans at
I,
four.
I, I did have the Titans at 4.
No
I
way! I thought I was going to get you there.
No,
Man.
no, you didn't get me there. I thought I was going to get you with that. But no, I'm going with the Titans in fourth, and I don't care for Mike Vrabel. I didn't like that hire.
It might be a good hire at the end of the day because honestly, if you're just like a really good just head coach and you just handle like overall operations and you have really good coordinators and you just let them do their thing, like you can run a successful team. Like it depends, but I didn't like that hire either. I agree with you. I was just
I
adding
do
some
like who you mentioned. I do like who they hired as their offensive coordinator, LaFleur. He was with the Rams. I think McVay brought him from somewhere else even before that. He has a decent
They,
track record.
yeah, he's definitely has to have some rub off from
Yeah.
McVay, so that's a good hire. But who's your number three?
So number 3, I've
Damn you.
honestly gone back and forth with this between these two teams. Between two teams, one of them is Jacksonville Jaguars, one is the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. At number 3, I don't like this team as much as you, James.
Wow, dude, why? They're freaking stacked.
Because
They're stacked.
do you
They
really
have
do you
the
really trust Blake Bortles again?
they have a perfect team to not have to trust Blake Bortles. If he can do what Dak Prescott did his rookie season, he'll be fine. He doesn't even have to do that. He can
Uh,
throw 20 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. They can win the Super Bowl. Dude, they should have went to the Super Bowl last year. They were up 10 with like 8 minutes left in the AFC
no, I
Championship.
hear you, and I don't dislike this team. I like their personnel defensively, but let's not forget this team. As great as we think they were still 10-6. They barely got by in the division, a division that didn't have Deshaun Watson or Andrew Luck last year, and they got swept by the Titans, who were not that good.
I see Blake Bortles playing a little better this year. I see Leonard Fournette playing better this year.
Fournette should be a lot better. They upgraded the offensive line by getting Norwell, and that was already a decent offensive line.
Is going to have a good team
Yeah.
out on that field, dude.
I don't like it. I like their run game. I like their offensive line. I like their defense. Again, I think it depends on Blake Bortles. He was, I wouldn't say good last year. He was okay last year. I don't like his weapons. Marquise Lee's okay. Dante Moncrief has put together some decent seasons. And then they're relying a lot on DJ Chark, their second or third round pick, who could end up being pretty good. He has some speed, but I don't trust Blake Bortles, man. I think this is about, well, we'll get into that later. I think this is about a 500 team.
Okay.
But so go ahead with your third place.
Fair enough. I do have the Colts, and I love Andrew Luck. Like, my friends actually kind of make fun of me because they think he sucks, and I'd say he's a beast.
We're like the only two people who still defend Andrew Luck.
Dude, he's a beast. He's never had a good roster once, and he's been to the playoffs a bunch of times. So I do see them, despite a bad roster, being a half-decent team this year. Third place in that division is not a bad team at all. They're just not as good as the other teams, simply put.
I think I wanted to pull the trigger on them. I still think they're like another year away.
Their personnel is terrible. Frank Reich, I don't think was the best hire. I think he got a little too much credit for what he did in Philadelphia. Most of that was Doug Peterson, and Doug Peterson called the plays. I mean, but Doug Peterson didn't call the plays before he got hired either. So that doesn't mean it can't. It turned out to be a good hire. They do have a good GM now.
Yeah.
So I think they can be good in like a couple of years, but they're just not there right now. And I kind of feel bad for Andrew Luck. I hope he stays healthy this year, and he really might not, to be honest with you. He might get hurt again. I hope that, knock on wood. That might be the case for another quarterback in that division too, knock on wood. I hope that doesn't happen either. But, I got the Colts at 3.
That's not surprising. I debated putting the Colts at number 3, but I obviously didn't, and I actually have them as my second place team. Again, I don't think they're going to have that great of a year. I think they're going to hover around 500. One thing you mentioned, or one thing you didn't mention, is I do think this offensive line went from being bad to now you look at it and this might be a top half offensive line in the NFL after what they did this offseason. Getting Quentin Nelson in the draft, and Braden Smith in the draft. They now got a pretty good left tackle in Anthony Costanzo. Quentin Nelson, who everyone has said, probably a Hall of Fame caliber left guard. We'll see. Pretty good center in Ryan Kelly when he's healthy. And then right guard's going to be between Jack Mewhort, who's decent, or Braden Smith, their second-round pick. But I really think they upgraded their offensive line. I like the Frank Reich hire more, I guess, than you. But I understand your reasoning for it. Defensively...
I mean, hold on. He came from the Eagles, so I wouldn't say I don't like it.
Right.
It just... Like I said, I think he got, just associated with the Eagles staff that he didn't do as much as he could have. You know what I mean?
He still played a part in developing Carson Wentz, though. Yeah.
No doubt.
And then defensively, I don't think this is going to be a good unit. It should be better than last year. They did get Darius Leonard in the draft, who I like, came from a small school. And two of their guys last year, their first 2 picks last year were hurt. Quincy Wilson and Malik Hooker kind of got in the game a little bit, but didn't really shine because they were hurt. But I think this is about an 8-8 team. Andrew Luck coming back. Who knows what's going to happen? He could be the same quarterback we saw in 2014, or he could struggle after his injuries. But I also kind of think the run game might be a little underrated. Marlon Mack kind of came on last year. We'll see. I'm curious to see who. I think I know you have, but go ahead.
Who, for number 2?
Yeah.
No, you don't, because it's the Texans.
No, I knew you were going to go with the Texans. I knew you were picking the Jaguars to win the division.
Yeah, and honestly, I really do love the Texans personnel. Like, oh my gosh, they're freaking loaded, but they're not as loaded as the Jaguars. I don't care if they have Deshaun Watson. Because, like I said earlier, for Andrew Luck, knock on wood, I hope Deshaun Watson doesn't get hurt, but he very, very well could. he's a very slight guy, unfortunately, and they don't last that much in the NFL sometimes.
And I'm not crazy about their offensive line.
Exactly. They traded their left tackle away to the Seahawks, who was a top 4 or 5 offensive left tackle in the league. I mean, he's an absolute beast. Yeah, man, he's going to be running for his life on 2 torn ACLs. They do have crazy good personnel, though. I can't lie. But, yeah, I got them at number 2. So that means you have the Colts second in the division?
Yep. I actually do have the Houston Texans in first. The more I think about it, the less I like it. Because, like you just said, Deshaun Watson coming off an injury, terrible offensive line, kind of an okay running game. It's nothing special with Lamar Miller. He's kind of just a guy. A couple 1,000-yard receptions. I'm not crazy about his weapons offensively outside of DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller is a good deep threat, but that's really all he is, and he drops the ball a lot. This could be tricky, but what's his name? Deshaun Watson came in the league last year by storm, really, took it over. I think that team was on its way to making the postseason, winning that division. If he had stayed healthy, they get J.J. Watt back, who has kind of become the defensive version of Andrew Luck. I got to see it. I got to see him play. But even without him, they had a great defense last year. So I think they're just going to be even better with him on the field. They're going to get a favorable schedule, 4th-place schedule. So
there's no doubt in my mind that J.J. Watt can at least be a 10-plus sack guy.
Yeah.
I think he can do that on motor alone. Just being like a huge human and having, you know what I mean? He's not going to take any plays off. I think he can get 10 sacks. So he's still going to be Hall of Famer.
Also, one more thing. They did bring in Tyrann Mathieu, who I like. Aaron Colvin from the Jaguars, pretty good slot corner. So I think their secondary got better, and I think Bill O'Brien's an underrated head coach.
Okay.
He's all right. Go ahead.
The Jags, baby.
Yep, I figured. Go ahead.
Jalen Ramsey's one of my favorite players in the league.
He just got suspended for a week, but he just got suspended.
I don't give a shit because he's probably talking shit. I love shit talkers in sports where you can hit the other person. So if MMA, boxing, football, dude, talk all the shit you want because you can literally rock the shit out of them on the field or in the ring. So I think it's kind of corny when soccer players or baseball players or basketball players do it because you're not actually going to fight on the court, or hit each other on the court. But Jalen Ramsey's the man. Bouye is literally might be just as good. I got Gibson back there smacking people. Miles Jack, Telvin Smith, Ngakoue.
They do
Calais
lose
Campbell. Yo, they are freaking retardedly stacked. If Kirk Cousins should have went there, I think they have a better roster.
One thing, they do lose Puslesny, the quarterback of their defense.
Yeah, that's underrated. But I also think Miles Jack will take another step forward this year, and you can't replace him. He was like a 12-year vet, but yeah, I got the Jags number 1. I got the Jags. I think this whole division is going to be really close, and they're going to beat the hell out of each other, but I got the Jags at 11-5. I got the Texans at 10-6. I have the Colts at 8-8, and I have the Titans at 8-8.
I actually have the Texans at 10-6. I don't think the division winner is going to be 11. Win more than 11 games. I have the Colts and the Jaguars kind of in a tie for second at 8-8. And just due to tiebreakers, I have the Colts really ahead of them. And then lastly, I have the Titans at 6-10, actually.
Okay.
So that's the AFC South. That was probably our most, I don't know.
Opposing.
What's that?
Polarizing.
Yeah, polarizing. That's a good word for it. But yeah. Right next, maybe right after this, we're going to do an NFC East one. So, yep, that's
let's just go into it and post it in the same video. Why not?
Nah, I want to do it separate, but it won't take 2 seconds to load it.
No, that's fine.
Okay, let's do that then. That was our AFC South. Stay